Imagine a morning when all of nature should be awakening, yet as you push open your window, the familiar chorus of 100 birds is nowhere to be heard. The forests are motionless, the fields are deathly still, and the air holds only a pungent, unsettling chemical odor. This is no opening scene of a horror film, but a doomsday vision pre-enacted for all of humanity in 1962 by a frail woman through her prose. In that very year, chemical titans across America conspired to smear her, branding her a hysterical spinster, and even threatening to make her vanish. Yet this woman, then suffering from the ravages of cancer and in such agony she could barely walk, sat composed before a congressional hearing. With a voice as gentle as moonlight yet as unshakable as stone, she fundamentally rewrote the way humanity coexists with nature. Her name was Rachel Carson. Tonight, by the soft flicker of the hearth, let us journey through her true life with this story, one you need not labor to remember. She is the mother of the modern environmental movement, a seeker of light who spent her life guarding the oceans and the spring, the most solitary yet courageous of souls. In the quiet of the night, let us slowly unveil the mystery of this literary saint's fate. A life as deep as the ocean waves and as solemn as a silent breeze. Rachel's life seemed painted in the hues of the forest long ago, amidst the river valleys of Pennsylvania during her childhood. Born in 1907 to an ordinary family, her mother was a woman who loved music, but loved nature even more. While other girls her age were learning to sew and study social etiquette, Rachel walked barefoot by streams, watching the dive of a kingfisher or searching the thickets for an abandoned egg. Her mother told her, "Every tree has its own breath. We must learn to listen." This almost mystical initiation into nature became the earliest imprint upon her soul. In college, she switched from the literary department to biology, a move considered a mad adventure at the time. After graduation, to support her aging mother and struggling family, Rachel became a civil servant, writing science scripts for the Bureau of Fisheries. In those oppressive days thick with bureaucracy, she nonetheless composed marine prose as picturesque as poetry. The ocean she depicted was not a mine of resources, but a cradle filled with love, struggle, and eternal cycles. This solitary habit of writing by a dim lamp after her night shifts allowed her to forge an extraordinary style, a form of intellectual tranquility that possessed rigorous scientific logic yet radiated a lush, literary beauty. In the 1940s, Rachel Carson's name began to shine across both the literary and scientific worlds. Her work Under the Sea Wind stunned the public. People were amazed to find that science could be written with such gentleness, and that a woman could interpret the language of the tides so profoundly. Fame followed, and her royalties allowed her to purchase a small cottage overlooking the sea, marking the most serene period of her life. Her daily labor consisted of following the ebb and flow of the tides to observe the minute lives of the intertidal zone, barnacles, anemones, and translucent shrimp. She once remarked, "I am possessed by a never-ceasing longing for life by the water's edge." Yet, this peace was soon shattered by a plea for help from a distant friend. The friend told her that due to the massive spraying of pesticides, her once vibrant farm was now littered with the bodies of birds and bees. Rachel laid aside the grand chapters she was writing about the ocean. Through that acrid scent of poison, her keen eyes foresaw an impending global catastrophe. She realized that if truth remained silent, the seas and forests of her prose would eventually turn into a cold, desolate wasteland. This descent of mission was not born of heroic fervor, but from a maternal, searing compassion for every living creature. In 1958, Rachel embarked on the final and most agonizing expedition of her life, the writing of Silent Spring. This was no longer a pure hymn to nature, but a combat manifesto fueled by indignation and evidence. She knew well that she was challenging a colossal empire of interests, the chemical industry that had burgeoned since World War II, and the human arrogance that sought to conquer nature and dominate all things. At the most critical moment of gathering evidence, fate dealt her the heaviest blow. She was diagnosed with terminal breast cancer. Thus began an interminable period of physical torment and psychological isolation. While enduring the nausea, hair loss, and acute pain of chemotherapy, she sat in a bedroom overflowing with scientific journals, tapping out line after line on her keyboard. To maintain secrecy, she dared not reveal her illness to the world, knowing the chemical companies would use it as a pretext to dismiss her theories as the hysterical ramblings of a woman born of ill health. She wept in the deep of night, not out of a fear of death, but from the terror that time was running out, that before she could finish, the spring would fall forever silent. This lucidity maintained under extreme pressure gave her words a near-sacred weight. She was not merely writing about pesticides, she was using her own withering life to bargain for the resurrection of a vanishing spring. The publication of Silent Spring in 1962 was like a massive explosion that shook the foundations of the civilized world. Chemical giants were incensed, pouring millions into counterattacks and even threatening to sue her publisher. Yet Rachel displayed a composure that stunned everyone. Wearing a wig to hide the hair loss from her treatments, she appeared on the nation's most popular television programs. She offered no anger, no accusations, She simply explained to the audience with calm clarity, humanity is but a thread in the web of life. When we poison the earth, we poison ourselves. That gentle yet tenacious strength made every insult hurled at her appear pitifully small. President John F. Kennedy read her book and subsequently ordered the establishment of a special investigative committee. Thus, the spark of modern environmental protection was lit amidst the rubble. Rachel Carson's life seemed like a long retreat. In her final years, she withdrew completely from social circles and returned to her beloved cottage. She no longer needed fame or medals. Her only concern was whether the migratory birds would return on time to the shoreline outside her window. This total detachment from worldly success gave her late-life image a near-transparent nobility. In the fading light of her life, she strove to fulfill her final obligations. Then, like a single drop of water, she silently merged into the eternal ocean she had sought all her life. In April 1964, Rachel Carson peacefully closed her eyes at her home in Maryland. In that same year, due to her efforts, the first bans on toxic pesticides began to take effect, ushering in a brand new green era. Upon her passing, people all over the world walked outdoors spontaneously to listen to the wind in the trees and the birdsong of spring. The true legacy she left behind was not merely famous legal statutes, but the magnificent vision of reverence for life. Through her life, she taught us that peace lies not in conquering a place, but in whether you can truly establish a connection with all things. She answered the question posed in the prologue: as long as there is even one soul keeping watch, the spring will not be forever silent. Our story for tonight has concluded. I hope the gentleness of this prophet of nature brings you some solace in the deep of the night. Now, release all your anxieties. Let your thoughts, like the tides in Carson's prose, slowly and rhythmically recede into the distance. In that azure dreamscape, free of strife and toxins, you will find that you too are a steady and deeply loved part of this grand web of life. Good night.